This episode is powered by PodDecks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Go Talk podcast. Today, I'm joined by Dylan and Fred of the On and Off the Field podcast, and today we're just going to talk a little bit about some NFL football. Before we get started, like always, this episode is powered by PodDecks. PodDecks are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. Simply shuffle up, ask a question, and let the content roll. Get yours today at poddecks.com and use code GTP2020 for 10% off your first order. So just before we get started, I want to thank you guys for coming on today. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling?
Good.
Oh, never better.
I just got done shaving my head, and I cut myself, so I got a Band-Aid on the back of my neck. But other than that, we're doing good.
That's nice. So just want to start. I guess my first question would be the Steelers right now, undefeated, 11-0. Are they the best football team in the league right now?
Boy, oh boy. It's really hard to tell. It just is. I realize you play who you're in front. I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and tell you that, they don't deserve the record they have. They're undefeated. It still takes a lot to be undefeated, no matter who you've played up to this point. But I don't think they're the best. I think the Chiefs are still on top. If it wasn't for a crazy game with the Raiders, they'd be undefeated too.
Yeah.
I just think they're more talented. I have a lot of questions about the Steelers' offense. And now, as we're getting further into the season, now they lost Devin Bush, and now they've lost Dupree. Now I'm starting to rack up questions about the defense too. Not a lot of questions, but still questions nonetheless. And the offense I'm always concerned about. So, no, I don't think they're the best team. They got the best record, but not the best team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Dylan. I don't think they're the best team. I still think the Chiefs are, they're going to hold that title until they lose a playoff game or get to the Super Bowl and lose. It's that offense that just, you see them struggling against the Ravens on Wednesday, and that's not something you want to see out of the quote unquote best team in the league. The record, they are undefeated. They play who's in front of them. I mean, granted, the teams that they've played, if you're looking now at the end of the season, a lot of those teams, their records aren't that great. I think the Browns are probably one of the best teams that they've played so far. Besides the Titans, Titans are rolling too. But, like Dylan said here, I'll, just kind of reiterate a little bit, that defense has lost so much, for being, I think they're still a top 5 defense. The problem is they play down to their opponents. It seems like a lot of this team, week in, week out, they're not putting a team away. And they keep it close, and that's why I just don't think they're the best team in the league right now.
Are they the best team equipped to knock off the Chiefs in the AFC? Like, do they have the best chance to keep the Chiefs from going back to the Super Bowl this year?
I would think so, because they have pass rush. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is still elusive, and he can still get the ball out quick, and Andy Reid will figure out a way to avoid pass rush. But as long as losing Bud Dupree doesn't completely annihilate their pass rush, because they still got Watt and other people, so I'm sure they'll be okay. But I think that's really the key to taking down Patrick Mahomes, and that's why the 49ers gave him a run for their money in the Super Bowl, because they had pass rush. Having Minkah Fitzpatrick back there also helps, blanketing, Tyreek Hill. They can take him out of a game if they want to. So I would say that defense is best equipped, but if the defense falters for one or two drives and next thing you know, the Chiefs have a 10, 14-point lead, I don't think that offense can keep up.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I think they're probably the most equipped to knock off the Chiefs. Just kind of like Dylan said, if that defense slips up, that offense is not going to carry this team, it seems like. And, Patrick Mahomes is kind of like, he'll take advantage of a lot of stuff, whatever the defense is going to give him. And then that Chiefs defense, if they are playing with a lead, they play a little different than they do when they're playing behind or isn't in a close game. So Steelers right now, I think are, they're probably the Chiefs' biggest fear, but I don't know if it's a big fear right now.
let's switch over to the NFC. NFC's been really competitive this year relative to a few issues. You've got the Saints at the top of the conference. The Packers are in the second. They're 8-3. The Seahawks 8-3. You got a lot of tough competition out there in the NFC. Is there a team right now that you can definitively say that if the season ends today is going to the Super Bowl?
I can't. I don't have an answer. I just don't, because that's been the storyline this entire season. Pretty much is you have the Chiefs and Steelers in the AFC. You'd like to think they're probably gonna be the teams that battle it out, and that's pretty straightforward answer. And if it's not one of those two, it's gonna shock everybody.
Right.
With the NFC, yeah, one of 5, 6 teams could win the NFC, and we'll just be like, all right, yeah, sure, I guess that makes sense. It could be anyone. The Seahawks are getting a pass rush. They have the most sacks in the league the past 4 games right now, so they're finding their defensive rhythm. The Packers are still the Packers. Aaron Rodgers will carry that team as long as he wants to.
Yeah.
The Saints are just weird. The defense always steps up when Drew Brees is out. So it'll be, the real question will be if Drew Brees comes back, when he comes back, what will the defense, will they respond and just keep doing what they're doing right now? I don't know. There's really, I don't have a definitive answer, because anyone can falter at any point. We've seen it all season long. We've seen the Seahawks tumble. We've seen the Saints have struggles. We've seen the Packers get blown out a few times. Who knows? I'll give you an answer. I'll say the Packers, just because it's Aaron Rodgers. For some reason, the Packers just always like to win. They made it to the NFC Championship game last year. I'll give you the Packers.
I'm a Packers fan. It makes me.
There you go. You're welcome.
Yeah. I will say the thing about the Packers, there's just so much left to be desired on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, when you look at, you've got Zadarius Smith, you've got Preston Smith, who, I mean, are playing much like they played last season. You've got Jair Alexander out there in the secondary, but there's just so much left to be desired. Our run defense is atrocious. Our pass defense isn't that much better. I think what we've seen in the 8 games that we won, it's really been situations where we're getting in situations and we just happen to win in the trenches, which is something we don't do very often, and it's not something that we can do for a sustained period of time. When you look at like the teams we have in the NFC, you've got the Buccaneers, who, if they can figure out this situation with Brady and Bruce Arians and get to the playoffs, you've got a stacked backfield. You've got Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. You've got, you've got the Seahawks, who have Chris Carson and I can't think of the other running back right now, but their running game.
He's not important. Don't worry. It's Carlos Hyde. It's not important.
If we get into a situation where we have to stop the run of the playoff game, that's going to be the difference between us winning a game. I don't like our chances, and that's one of the reasons why we got embarrassed in the NFC Championship last year. It's one of the reasons why we lost the 3 games we lost last year, the 3 games we've lost this year. I would like to think that we can make it to the Super Bowl, but again, Aaron Rodgers is as great as he is. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's only so much he can do on the offense side of the ball. Like, at the end of the day, the defense has to step up, and I'm not sure if the defense is going to be able to, get us over the hump, because that's really what it's going to take.
Sorry, Fred. The Bills are an AFC team. You can't. That doesn't apply to this question.
I wasn't gonna pick the Bills.
I was actually gonna ask. I see that you're a Bills fan. Are you? How are you feeling about the Bills are 8-3? Josh Allen has been playing pretty well this season. I think his best game of the season was in that Seahawks game, which was a surprise to me. I didn't think it would be that lopsided of a game throughout the course of it. How are you feeling about the Bills' chances not only to win the division, which I think it's just about set in stone now, but also just possibly make it to the Super Bowl?
I think the division, I think the Bills should be able to lock that up in a few weeks here. I'm hoping Miami slips up another time or two. Definitely week 17. I'm circling that. That's request that day off. Just gonna stay at home and watch that game for sure. I was more excited about the Bills probably early on in the season. I know Josh Allen. He's taken that next leap that a lot of, coming out of college, they didn't expect him to. And he's gotten into a rhythm now, and it's good to see. Bills as a whole on offense, they started out explosive passing, and it kind of defenses started playing to that a little bit more. The better teams that they've played, the 3 losses. Well, I'm gonna count 2, but they start playing to that pass. And as much as good as Josh Allen is, they know how to scheme correctly for him. And then he's being mobile. It was good to see this last game against the Chargers. That run game really started to get explosive. And the defense is starting to finally show up. So if that's any kind of trend that I'm seeing now, it's a good trend to be going to. Everything's coming into play. I'm hoping at least they're getting through wild card weekend, and if not divisional, on our show, I picked them as a hot take to be the AFC title game will be Chiefs Bills.
Yeah.
And if I'm seeing that, I'm gonna pick the Bills all day. But I'm not gonna be disappointed if they don't make it to the Super Bowl. As good as they are, I think maybe we're still a year out. But it's all good things right now for the Bills.
Yeah, Josh Allen's been playing great. He's bounced in and out of the MVP conversation throughout the season. Right now, I think it's pretty clear that Patrick Mahomes is leading the MVP conversation right now. Is there a guy that over this last stretch of the season could possibly take that away from him from going back to back?
Derrick Henry's the only one.
Yeah.
I don't think Big Ben can get enough stats. I don't think he has the ability.
I think he'll be
drive up the stats to do that. If the team goes 16-0, I guess you have to consider it, but I don't think you can beat a guy who's thrown 1 interception.
Yeah.
But I say Derrick Henry because last year, the final 6 games of the season, he rushed for 1,000 yards. If he does that again this year, when he's already leading the rushing title right now and just racks up 1 billion touchdowns, 1 million yards, then I think you have to consider. I know it's a QB award. It always has been, whether people want to admit that or not. But he has to be considered if he does what he did last year around this time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of would pick Derrick Henry too. If I had to pick a QB though, I would probably go Aaron Rodgers just based on he's doing Aaron Rodgers things this year, and last year and during the offseason, we talked about Dylan and I talked about on our show, like it was the sneakiest 13-3 team that we've seen the Packers end up in the season, and you just like, oh, where did they come out of nowhere winning 13 games? It's just Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to do what he needs to do, and it frustrated me when in the draft, they didn't take any weapons for him. They first round quarterback.
I did. Yeah.
But I mean,
infuriating.
Quarterback, I think it's Aaron Rodgers, but if we're looking just MVP in general and all across all positions, I think besides Patrick Mahomes, I'm looking at Derrick Henry.
I spent, I want to say, maybe a show or two ranting about the fact that the Packers didn't draft a wide receiver. I mean, why would you not? You've got Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb. This is a very stacked wide receiver class. I think for us to not draft a wide receiver was dumb. Now, granted, we didn't draft a wide receiver. We're 8-3, but that doesn't mean we're going to get to the Super Bowl without that wide receiver. We were in a position to pick up Des Bryant. We didn't do that. We were in a position to pick up Antonio Brown. We didn't do that. We could have traded for Will Fuller. We didn't do that either. So there's something in I guess this front office is really confident in the wide receiver core we have now, which is not a bad wide receiver core. We got Devontae Adams. The issue is we don't have a reliable second guy. Alan Lazard has his ups and his downs. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has his up and his downs. He played a great game against the Colts, and it's unfortunate that he fumbled the ball, which we would have won that game had he not done that. He has his moments when he's great. He has his moments when he's not so great. Other than that, though, we don't have a reliable second quarterback. I mean, wide receiver. When you go into the playoffs, you can't just win a playoff game throwing it to Devontae Adams 25 times and just expecting that the defense isn't going to double him, triple team him, and force us to do that. And that's
Unless you
where,
play the Seahawks.
that's true. That's true. I think that's one of the good things about the
Don't
NFC.
worry, I didn't forget.
There's not really a dominant defense in the NFC. There's not
No, definitely not.
there's not really an NFC team when you look at the best teams in the NFC that have a good defense. I mean, the Seahawks haven't really had a good defense since the Legion of Boom. We haven't had a good defense in ever. The Saints really haven't had a good defense over the last few years. They've had a few bright spots in terms of players on the field, but I guess that's our only hope. But again, I don't see us going very far. Like I said, I don't see us going very far without a reliable second option out at the wideout position. When you're looking at guys like Aaron Rodgers, guys like Drew Brees, pushing the status quo in terms of how long you can play at a quarterback. You got Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, he's 41. Drew Brees will be 40 soon. Aaron Rodgers is approaching 40. You got Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis, who's not as great as the previous three, but he's also pushing 40 as well. Do you when you look at the younger guys in the league, like a Russell Wilson, who's a little bit younger, look at guys like Patrick Mahomes, based on what they're doing right now, do you think they can push it to that 40 as well and still play as effective as they're playing?
I don't see why not these days. It all depends on the player because, Russell Wilson's come out recently and talked about how he's virtually taken the LeBron James approach of spending $1 million just to take care of your body. It's players like I already have concerns about Justin Herbert because he likes to run the ball and get hit a lot.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, obviously. But Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, those pure pocket people, like Josh Allen at times, he's learning to slide. He's getting better. Tua obviously doesn't want to get hit hard. He's already learning that. If they just learn to not take those hard hits and then also on the side take care of their body, then yeah, the technology's out there to get the 40. And the way the league takes care of quarterbacks with you literally can't even touch their helmet.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're going on a pass rush and just tap the helmet, you can't even do that. Yeah. So yeah, you can easily make it to 40 these days. Any quarterback can, as long as you take care of yourself and slide when you're supposed to slide.
You mentioned Lamar Jackson. I just want to touch on the Ravens for a second, who Lamar Jackson MVP last season, and they completely choked. In the playoffs, Lamar Jackson has yet to really win a meaningful game in his career. Do you look at the Ravens and are there more questions than answers in Baltimore, or is it too early to panic in Baltimore right now?
Go ahead, Fred.
I think you should absolutely be panicking. I think Baltimore should be on fire right now. Panicking in the streets. Lamar Jackson's basically called out saying that defenses, they know what the Ravens are what they're gonna do almost every down because they're a routine offense. Greg Roman, he's been around the league. A lot of people have seen his offenses because he doesn't change them when he goes from team to team. It's it's the same setup. They know what to expect from Lamar Jackson. The way that I'll go back to the divisional playoff game against the Titans. The Titans shut him down.
Right.
There's more and more tape each week now on him that he struggles starting outside the numbers. If you take his tight end away, or at least slow him down, then Lamar's looking to scramble. They run the ball 64% of the time on first down. It's a predictive offense, and the defense isn't there to complement that predictive offense. To help them get through the game and play consistently. So it's absolutely panic in Baltimore.
I mean, you can blame that on Lamar Jackson not wanting to get better as a passer, but you can also blame that on the fact that they don't have a wide receiver that's not a dinosaur and also is more than 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
Des Bryant's not a threat. You're not scaring anyone when you put Des Bryant on the field. When they picked up Des Bryant, it's like, oh, he's back. Okay.
It's a feel-good story for sure, but it doesn't do It doesn't scare a defense. You're not scared of Des Bryant right now at this point.
No.
When you no, I'd rather not. But let's just talk about the eyesore of the league so far this season. It's been the eyesore. It was the eyesore last year, eyesore this year. NFC East. Um, you've got you've got the Giants sitting atop the division. They're 4-7. You've got the Washington football team. They're 4-7. You've got the Eagles, who are what are they? 3-7-1 now, and you've got the Cowboys, who are 3-8. The fact that either of these teams are going to be able to be in the playoffs by default is just a joke, and I think the NFL should seriously consider changing the way they do the playoffs if this is what we're going to get in the playoffs. But is there a team that you think should they make the like? Is there really a best team in the NFC East right now, considering how terrible they've all been playing?
I don't think there's a good team. I don't think you can look at them and go, yeah, like I know their record doesn't reflect how good they are. Like, no, they all deserve to have the record they have. But like we just talked about this impromptu on our last show. Like, it wasn't even on the schedule. We ended up going through all of the NFC East teams' schedules,
Yeah.
and we tried to determine who was going to win. And we actually picked Washington. And I actually have Washington beating the Steelers this week. It's just because that defense, it has so much potential if coached properly, which this season they've had their moments. And then Antonio Gibson is really starting to come into his own. I don't think he's going to have as much success against the Steelers as he did the Cowboys. Obviously, that's going to be hard to do. But Alex Smith is still a capable quarterback. I can't believe it. Give that man comeback year award and name the award after him. I don't care what you do. But he's still a great quarterback. Terry McLaurin's very good, but it stops right there. Like, that's it. Yeah, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, and then you have to stop. But I think they have the potential to do something this year. But the rest of them don't even deserve being talked about. The Eagles suck, Cowboys suck, Giants suck.
The Eagles, you've got Carson Wentz, who leads the league in interceptions. He's been sacked almost 50 times. He leads the league in off-target throws. He's not playing up to the $100 million contract that he's being given. Now, is that when you're in Philadelphia and you're looking at what do you have to do? Because moving forward, this can't continue to happen. Like, Carson Wentz can't continue to play this level the way he's been playing this season and this contract be justifiable anymore. So are you moving Carson Wentz? Are you moving Doug Peterson? Are you moving the general manager? Are you moving all three? What is it? Because obviously this season is scrapped. Like, there's nothing that they can do this season, even if they make the playoffs, which they shouldn't, but nothing's going to happen. So moving to next season, what needs to change in Philadelphia so they can get back to where they were in the Super Bowl a few years ago?
I think it starts with Peterson. I think the only way you get different play out of Carson Wentz is to get rid of Doug Peterson. And we talked about it on the show a couple of times. Their press conference, their post-game press conferences are just so frustrating because they just accept it. They can say they're upset and they can say things are frustrating, but then they're like, oh, it is what it is. We'll try next game. That can't happen in Philadelphia. Like, they won the Super Bowl just a few years ago. Like, there's should be some type of expectation in Philadelphia, and it's falling apart very quickly there. People make the excuse that Carson Wentz's salary cap is too big of a hit for the team for over the next 2 years, which it's a decent amount. It's hard to build a team when you're taking that much of the salary cap in the offseason to pay someone who's not on the team anymore. But they have Jalen Hurts. They've been playing him a little bit more and more. I think he shows promise, and I think bring a new head coach in. Be like, hey, listen, we're gonna play tight for 2 years. Kind of do the Matt Rule situation in Carolina. Get the 7-year contract. Be like, just come in knowing we're gonna we're going to be a little short talent. I mean, maybe not, but most likely short talent on the team for 2 years, and then build through the draft with what they can, and then after those 2 years, after you get rid of the salary cap hit, then be like, all right, now I want to see what you want to do. And I don't think leaving Doug Peterson there for another 2 years with a different quarterback is anywhere near close to the answer. I think you have to go new head coach.
Do we lost? Okay. So you move into Dallas. You've got Dak Prescott, who coming into the season was struggling to get his money. He ends up getting put on the tag. Unfortunately, he breaks his ankle, and so now he's done for the season. Do you, at the rate that he was going, I mean, the Cowboys weren't playing that great with him anyway, but at the rate that he was going, do you think at the end of the season he would have been getting his money? And now that he's hurt, is he going to get that money, or do you think they're going to re-up on the tag again?
I mean, all momentum shifted to Jerry Jones as soon as that ankle went, because now you have an injury-prone quarterback.
Yeah.
And all Jerry has to do is say, hey, man, I can't have that ankle on a long-term contract. And if Dak wants to play on another tag, Godspeed. If Jerry wants to put him on another tag, good luck with that. But I don't think he gets a long-term deal this offseason anymore, no matter what Jerry thinks, because this is where Jerry Jones really just grinds my gears, because he comes out and says he's worth the world to us. He's worth anything to us. Then why didn't you sign him in the beginning? Yeah. You just went through a contract battle with this kid, put him on a tag, and then this happens. Oh, he's worth anything to us. Then you should have gave him anything. Don't come to me with that garbage, you idiot. You senile old man. But I don't think he gets it this year. If they want to keep him, which it sounds like they do, he'll get tagged again. But then that's it for that. It's all up to Dak next season if he can stay healthy and keep chucking it. But oh boy, Cowboys are gonna ride.
Does that put the pressure on Dak to possibly deliver? It's weird to put Super Bowl in the same sentence with the Cowboys, but like, is that really the expectation now when you're in a situation where you don't get the money you wanted to get in the offseason, so you're put on the tag, and you're essentially going to be playing for your contract on the tag, then you get hurt, so you're going to be put right back on the tag. Does this mean that now Dak Prescott has to go all out, possibly get, I would say, maybe an NFC Championship, if not a Super Bowl win for the Cowboys to get the money from Jerry Jones, or are we going to see him in another uniform after next season?
I think I think you're gonna see him in a new uniform. I mean, that's what I said at the beginning of this year, but his injury kind of took that to another realm. That was my hot take this season, was going to be he's in a different uniform next year. So push that one more year because he'll be put on a tag again. I don't know. I just don't think he'll be there because that there's too much money soaked up into that offense right now. They have a terrible offensive line. They have a terrible defense, but they have all this money in Zeke, Amari, Michael Gallup even. It's just ugly right now. They just spent their money in terrible ways.
Do they turn it around this season? I mean, it's really weird to say turn it around, but like, let's say they lose out, which I think of all the teams in the NFC, I think they are the most likely to lose out the rest of the season. And they're in a position now where they have a chance to, I mean, they're not going to have the first pick. I think the rights to the first pick are clearly going to the Jets. But let's say they get in a position where they, are in a position where they might want to draft a quarterback. Do you think they're drafting a quarterback this season? I mean, because there's going to be some solid guys coming out. It's not just Trevor Lawrence. You've got Justin Fields. You've got Sam Ehlinger down in Texas. So is it possible that we see the Cowboys draft a quarterback this season?
I think absolutely. They struggled the last couple of years. They didn't want to pay Dak. The last couple of years when it's been contract talk time, and they have Andy Dalton there, and they know his skill set. Mike McCarthy can work with it a little bit, probably better than Dak. Just up and down. I think of Prescott. From game to game, it's been a struggle for this team. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if the Cowboys, draft quarterback because it's on the cheap. They have all this money they've already spent. Let's build a younger team now. Yeah, I think it's definitely a new quarterback.
Is there a quarterback in particular that you think they would be? Obviously not Trevor Lawrence, but like, is there a quarterback that you think that they're definitely going to be eyeing as the season, comes to a close and as the draft gets closer, where they're like, that's the guy that we're going to draft? No doubt about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Fields comes up in the mix there. Ohio State, they just play insane offense, and I think it's more granted to their receivers. We saw the Dwayne Haskins bust fall out after this last year, so I think Justin Fields is definitely someone they're going to keep an eye on.
Is Haskins done in the league? Do you think he's going to find somewhere else to go? Like, do you think there's a team that looks in Haskins and go, maybe that's our guy, if not right now, but for the future? I think because you look at Pittsburgh, who, like you said earlier, Big Ben he has more games behind him than he does ahead of him. He's not going to be here much longer. They don't really have a solid backup quarterback that you can put in the game and say, hey, you go out there, you win us this game. Not saying that Dwayne Haskins is that guy, but like, is there a team? I don't know if it's the Steelers, but like, is there a team that Dwayne Haskins can go to, kind of sit behind a guy, find himself again, and probably reach that potential that everyone thought he was going to have coming out of college?
I think that's his only option. He's not going to go anywhere and get his starting job, and if he does, it'll be with a team that didn't draft a quarterback, and they just need someone to plug and play. His only option is he's the new Jameis Winston. Although Jameis Winston is still in that role, he's just going to be the guy that sits back there. They're going to watch him in practice, and if the moment arises where they think, hey, it's not looking that bad, or the quarterback gets hurt, they throw him in there. Yeah, that's really where I see him at, and I'm hard pressed to believe what I've seen from him, from his maturity level, his desire to get better, just everything. I don't think he'll ever be an official starter for a team for 16 games ever.
I'm actually glad you brought up Jameis Winston, because Taysom Hill has been starting the games since Drew Brees went out. What does that say to you about the confidence of the Saints and Jameis Winston's ability to go out and win a game that they've got Taysom Hill, who has thrown like 4 passes in his career up until recently? Do you think that the Saints truly have any type of confidence in Jameis Winston at all?
I think they do.
Yeah.
I just think they dumped Taysom Hill's getting paid $16 million a season.
Yeah.
The opportunity arises to get him on the field for more than 4 snaps a game. They had to put him in. I don't think they were going to allow Taysom Hill to just sit by and watch as they pay him $16 million a season. Just my take.
Yeah, I think they have confidence in Winston, but I think it just goes back to they put that first round exclusive tag on him in the offseason. They're gonna play him because they're gonna prove to the NFL that he can get the job done, and that other teams passed up on him. And until he doesn't win a game, and then we see Winston come in, you're going to continue to see Taysom Hill. There was a talk last year when Bridgewater was covering for Breeze. I think Bridgewater is probably the better, consistent stand in the pocket passer than Taysom, but Taysom gives them right now the gadget plays, the wildcat, and just a lot more variability, I think, compared to Winston.
Just talk about the rookies for a second. Obviously Joe Burrow, he went out with the ACL injury, but you've got Justin Herbert, who you mentioned earlier, Tua, who got benched because he's hurt, dealing with some type of injury down in Miami. Who right now is rookie of the year as we get to this final stretch of the season?
I think I think it just goes back to all these awards being handed to quarterbacks more often.
Yeah.
You might have to give it to Herbert he's thrown a bunch of. He might be collecting losses, but that happened with Philip Rivers too. I think that's a systemic issue that starts with Anthony Lynn. But I think he kind of had to get Justin Herbert with all those 3 touchdown games. He broke some kind of rookie record with 3 touchdown passing games. Justin Jefferson is a name that's popped up a lot. Outside, I think those are your top 2. I mean, obviously Joe Burrow should have been in there. It's unfortunate for him.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the 2 I think your really only options.
Where does Minnesota go with Kirk Cousins? I mean, Kirk Cousins has never truly proven to be the guy that can get you to Super Bowl. He's got this deal that's expiring soon. Does Minnesota stick with Kirk Cousins? Do we see Minnesota as another team that might possibly look for a quarterback in the draft this upcoming draft? Where do you think Minnesota goes in terms of their play caller for the future?
I think it'll be draft. I don't know if it'll be next year or maybe the season after. I think Minnesota is going to kind of do, they're going to play out through Kirk Cousins' contract, and then, it'll be contract talk time, and they just won't do anything about it. And he just hasn't lived quite up to the hype. They probably overpaid him, so they're going to, we overpaid him, so we're going to use him for the entire term of his contract. We're going to expect him to go out and win games, and when the contract over, okay, we'll move on to the next guy. I think it's definitely draft.
And then just real quick before we go, who is the one team right now that you think that's not, leading a division or anything? Is there one team right now that you think is a dark horse to win the Super Bowl?
Boy, oh boy, dark horse to win this late in the season makes it tough.
Yeah,
because we know a lot about these teams.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like looking over everything. I mean, if the Bucks want to get back to where they were in the they've dominated a couple games. If they can figure out what they did right in those games and just do that on a consistent basis, they could get back into this. But I think we all know it's going to be the Chiefs or the Steelers out of the AFC. Then, like we talked about earlier, I mean, it's Packers, Saints, maybe Seahawks. Maybe the Rams can get back in there. So if you want my 2, the Bucks or the Rams, if they can figure out how to play good on a consistent basis.
I do want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I do want to thank you guys for coming on today. I do greatly appreciate it. I know it was kind of weird, but I do appreciate you guys for coming on. For good talk. For my viewers, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification. If you want to check out their podcast, I'll include the links down below, so that you can check that out as well. Again, thank you, Fred and Dylan, for joining us, and I'll see you on another episode of the Go Talk podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.